In this video, I'm going to talk about the different metas that are currently employed in Lincoln-Douglas debate. So, what is a meta and what are metas? Pretty simply put, metas are the styles, the tactics, and the strategies that different debaters or teams will try to employ to win different debates. The word meta is actually an acronym. It stands for the most efficient tactics available. So, if you think about this in a sports perspective, where this comes from, in basketball, you have different styles of offense that different teams will play. So in the NBA, the Princeton style offense, the pace and space style offense that the Golden State Warriors use, the triangle offense are all different styles that employ different tactics and strategies to try to win a basketball game. The same thing is true in video games. You hear people in League of Legends say, what's the meta? Or how did the meta change? Well, it might have changed from something that's focused on the team fighting to something that's more based on individual play. Or in one meta, it might have been centered around one role, where in the new meta, it's centered around another. You can also see this in football. I grew up in the house of a head football coach. The NFL has three major styles of offense: the West Coast, the Coryell air raid offense, and the flexible Earhart-Perkins style offense. All of these are just different ways that you can play the game of football, different strategies, different offenses that you employ to try to win the game using that set of skills. So in LD, first thing is that this is kind of arbitrary based on what I think. You might think, oh, well, you left out this thing, you left out this other thing, you made too many categories. This is just my opinion. This is kind of how I teach the different ways people approach LD. This is obviously going to be subjective and all arbitrary based on my opinion. So the first one that I'm going to go over is what I'm going to call traditional debate. So traditional debate is generally going to be centered around the value and criterions for the value and criterion for the debate. The second style is LARP. I think that this is LD's way of affectionately saying policy debate. LARP is also an acronym that stands for live action role player. So in LARP style debates, you're likely to encounter things like disads and counter plans and things like that. Probably somebody talking pretty fast. The next style of debate that I'm going to talk about is what I call California local style, because that's where I teach and what I'm familiar with. But a lot of you might also call this lay style debate. And that is debate where it's pretty much the AF defends the topic, reading a couple of contentions, the negative goes against the topic, reading their own contentions, and it's kind of like one-on-one public forum. That I call California local style. The other sort of style or meta of LD, there's more than just this one, would be a critical style where you would look at the topic from a philosophical perspective or question the topic to begin with. Maybe you don't even defend the topic to start with. Maybe you don't talk about the topic at all. Other types of metas that you have in debate. I know this is affectionately known as tricks in the LD community, pretty much a style of debate that is very flow-centric. That's kind of an evolution from theory that says, here are a bunch of things that have to happen in order for the debate to happen, or here are a bunch of things that you didn't do in the debate that you must do. So that would be called tricks. The last style is fill. A lot of people are going to put this up with traditional debate, but I will group it in its own little separate category, and that's just debates that are centered around philosophy, debates that are centered around very complex understandings of different people who probably are no longer alive. I think that's a little different than traditional debate, and other people might disagree, but that's pretty much my take on it. Now, you might say, Scott, there's more than six. There's not six. There's only three. This is pretty much how I group things. But to note that these change, these are ever changing, and they've changed over time, just like everything else in debate. Everything changes over time. So these metas will all change depending on what happens over the course of time. So, for instance, in policy debate, we started off with a meta where the negative in the debate very much got to argue for the status quo, and the affirmative only had to defend versus the status quo. Then, over time, the notion of a competitive policy option was brought in to play. So now the affirmative just doesn't have to defend against the status quo. Now it also has to defend against other things that can also cause change, other things that can also change the world and be something that the affirmative team can lose the debate on. Now the affirmative debate team in a debate has to defend itself from a wide variety of angles that are beyond a competitive policy option. So the meta of debate changes over time. In Lincoln Douglas, in my opinion, these 6 categories, traditional LARP, a local or lay style, critical style, tricks, philosophy, or Phil, are the 6 main styles that you see people employ in debate. So when you see people talk about different metas or use these types of stylistic terms, hopefully this helps you understand what all of these things mean. Thank you.